Well, hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight at our Connect group. I'm so grateful for you guys to be here. My name is Dominic Insenius, and if it's your first time here at Connect Group, all we do is we have a few questions based on the message that we had this past Sunday. And if you weren't able to be at church or haven't listened to the podcast, it's no problem. You can still be a part of the conversation. The questions are designed in a way to where even if you weren't there, you can take part. And I want to encourage you to be a part of the conversation. When you are brave and bold and share what's on your mind, you help make all of us better and help us to take steps in our faith. Now, we are in the third week of our series, Reluctant Obedience. And what we did this past week is our good friend Crystal, she spoke about Jeremiah and Peter. Jeremiah was someone who was called by God to do something amazing, and he was reluctantly obedient. He said, I'm too young. I don't feel qualified for this calling. And then we looked at a man named Peter who was definitely unqualified. He had no business doing what he was doing, following Jesus around, performing miracles. Yet he was immediately obedient, and God was able to use both of them in different ways. So what we're trying to do with this series is understand if God can use people who are reluctantly obedient, how much more can we be used if we are willing and able and we are immediately obedient? So some of the scriptures that we looked at, they're going to be up on the screen here in a moment. So this first question that I want to dig into together is, when was a time in your life, whether it's work or school or anything else, where you knew that you were unqualified for what you were doing? You knew you were unqualified for what you were being asked to do. And if you could describe that and then tell us all how that affected you. So let's take a few minutes to dig into that together. And I want to encourage you again to be brave and speak out and help us all to get to know you a little better. And it helps us to get to know ourselves a little bit better. So let's take a few minutes and dig into that. All right, now for this next question, I want to encourage you to read through those scriptures a little bit, because what we're going to get a chance to compare and contrast is, other than reluctance, what do you see or what do you feel is the biggest difference between Jeremiah's obedience and Peter's obedience? What sets them apart? What makes Peter different than Jeremiah? Because both were able to do amazing things for God, but there was a difference in their obedience, and it wasn't just reluctance. So I want you to take some time exploring this together. There's no wrong answers. We're all trying to grow in our faith and become stronger and closer in our relationship with God. So be brave and bold and share from your heart. So let's take a few minutes to dig into that together and see what you guys can come up with. All right, now as we've been kind of talking through this series, what we've boiled obedience down to is it is a matter of trust. If we are willing to trust someone, then it is easy to obey. It is easy to follow what they're wanting us to do because trust is attached. So before I talk about trust in God, what I want to know from you is, who in your life do you trust and why do you trust them? Now, maybe, do you have that same trust for God? Why or why not? So I want us to explore who in our life that we do trust, why we trust them. If we're able to apply that same type of trust or that level of trust with God, more or less, and if we can trust God that same way, why can we? And if we can't, then why can't we? I know it has a couple of levels, and even for us on our different levels that we have for questions, this is a good one. But I want us to explore our concept of trust, who we apply that to in our life, and if we apply that to God. So let's take a few moments to go through that together. Remember, there's no wrong answers, and I'm not trying to pull a certain answer out of you. I want us to just explore this together, explore our faith, and take steps in this journey. So let's take a few minutes and go over that together. All right, for this last question, what I want to dig into a little bit is what it means for you to trust, for you to obey, for you to trust God. And that's what we've been boiling obedience down to, is trust. So this week, as we take this into our life, right, as we take what we're learning and apply it into what we're trying to do to live this life one day at a time, one week at a time, how will you let obedience, or how will you let trust qualify you the way trust qualified Peter to follow Jesus and do amazing acts for the kingdom of God? How will you let trust in God sustain you the way it did Jeremiah, how it sustained him through the walk that he had with God and the things that God needed him to do? How will you let trust qualify you, sustain you and bring you closer to a relationship with God? What are you going to do this week to allow that to happen? So let's take a few minutes to talk through that together. This is the last question for tonight, so I'm going to leave you with this. I love you guys a bunch. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Don't forget to connect with someone tonight. If you don't have everyone's number in the room, get a phone number tonight. Text each other throughout the week. See how each other are doing. See if you can pray for each other. See if you can meet up for coffee. I challenge you. I dare you to do it. All right. I love you guys too much. We'll see you this Sunday at 9:30 or 11.